We're going to move on to our probation item, 7.4. Consideration of A, resolution amending the motion by the board approving the recommended budget of fiscal year 24-25 by adjusting revenues and appropriations in budget unit 2302 for probation. B, presentation of housing project plan with Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation. And C, approval of memorandum of understanding and funding agreement between County of Lake and Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation, RCHDC, and authorize the chair to sign. And Probation Chief Monfrance.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us today. I have with me Dan McIntyre from the Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation. Our first item it's a three-part request today. Our first item is requesting a resolution to, well, let me start from the beginning. The Community Corrections Partnership in October, at our October meeting, authorized probation to move forward with developing a housing for justice-involved individuals to deal with our large amount of our population that are homeless. We see about a 30% amount of the people we deal with that are identified in some form of homelessness. And so at the CCP meeting, they allocated $5 million for this expense. That amount has not been added to the probation department budget because we were still determining if the project was feasible and what type of project we would do. So we did a request for proposal in the spring of this year, and now we're ready to move forward. So we're asking for a resolution where the $5 million would go from the CCP fund into the probation budget as a revenue and an appropriation. So that's the first request. Can you bring up the PowerPoint, please?
I have a quick question, Wendy.
Sure.
Is that 30% homeless? Are they getting picked up on the pit count?
We're doing everything we can to make sure they are. I don't think the numbers quite show that in our last pit count numbers, but our probation staff highly participate in the pit count and do what we can to get the accurate count.
In fact, I would say you're a great contributor to the COC as a whole, so appreciate always having you there.
Thank you. It's too much color in it. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so now we want to talk about the housing project that was chosen from the RFP. Is it going? There we go. Okay, so as I said, more than 30% of the probation individuals we interact with are identified in some way with homelessness. And we did the RFP for the project in January, where three vendors came forward with proposals on justice-involved housing. Our request was that we house at least 20 individuals for a 12 to 18-month period while we got them into our services, community services, and found permanent housing for them. And at that RFP process, our RCHDC was chosen. There we go.
So my name is Dan McIntyre. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for RCHDC. So I'm going to just tell you briefly about our organization and what we do. We're a nonprofit housing development and property management company. We were founded in 1975 as a spinoff of NCO in Mendocino County. Our mission is to provide affordable and decent housing to individuals with low to moderate income. So we do that from Lake Mendocino all the way up to the Oregon border. We provide and develop special needs housing and probation housing, such as we're proposing here. We partners with numerous different county agencies over the years, from Lake Mendo, Del Norte, Humboldt, Tehama, to do this type of housing. We did a lot of No Place Like Home housing. We're currently finishing a housing development in Nice currently right now. We've also done and developed 66 affordable, self-help build houses in Lake County over the years, some in Upper Lake and some in South County. and we continue to develop, and we're working with Wendy on this proposal.
Okay, so this project is 40 units with 20 units that'll be set aside for justice-involved individuals. Our $5 million will be added to funds that RCHDC acquires through housing tax credits, and the local, I'm sorry, there's a new fund being developed, which they're also proposing. It's the local rural housing trust fund. Thank you. The proposed timeline would be over the next few months. We would look at different parcels and come up with a idea of where it's going to be built, and the funding would be acquired once that parcel has been identified, and construction would start in around November of 2026. So we would have not only a place for individuals to live, but there'd be case management ability on site, rooms for meetings, collaboration, and we would be on site all the time and have areas to have confidential meetings. There'd be a service coordinator and a property manager on site. So what we're looking for now is approval of our contract. Then we will go on and locate the sites. We have some identified, but we want to have community stakeholders have a say in what we're looking at. And then we will continue on with the construction process. That is our presentation on it.
All right, thank you very much. And Vice Chair Crandall.
Thank you for your last statement. You said exactly what I was going to ask, and that is for having community input. There's been a couple, and you mentioned the Nice project where there was a lot of dissension and outrage about that. There also was another potential youth project in my district that was just a complete outrage as well. So wherever it's at, make sure if there's a town hall there or the community, have those discussions, or if it comes here, then we talk about those. They have the opportunity to give some input as well. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Green?
Thank you. I agree. Probably there will be pushback. So just to pre-roll some anticipation, we need this type of housing. You know, when we have justice-involved individuals, especially those with certain offenses that require that heightened level of supervision, if you will, what are we supposed to do? We either put them into the general population or we put them in more structured environments like this. So whether it's a affordable housing project where it's a navigation center, or whether it's a project like this, you know, they're not just springing up these ideas out of thin air. You know, we have an obligation to serve these individuals. There are important public safety aspects for supporting projects like this. So when the rubber meets the road and we are looking at potential locations, please understand, whether it's in my district or another supervisor's district, we need this. So let's just soldier on, and let's see how this site selection process goes.
Please come and help accentuate that at the meetings, or even here when this comes.
Just say the word.
I will say, I've been discussing this at many community events so far, and surprisingly, I haven't received pushback so far. But I believe as we get closer to a site identification, that may change.
It becomes more real.
And I think it's because probation is on site. I think if you mention that gives a lot of, a credibility to it. But also, it usually doesn't hit until it's like out somewhere in the paper or on the agenda here. It's like, no one ever told me. And so, like, that's why it's important to have those. And I can help if it's in my district or with, to get those meetings set up too.
Did you just volunteer for your district?
I did. I better, because if it gets past me.
I just wanted to reiterate what has already been said, but it is needed here in the community. We're having conversations with behavioral health, everything else is going on. So, yeah, I think it'll come, that conversation will get more intensified when we select the spot. So, yeah, at least what I've heard all the way across the board is each one of us are supporting whatever district it ends up in, or the cities, I think, have that conversation as it needs to happen. So, yeah, here to support you as we move forward with this project. And RCHDC, thank you for the work that's being done in Lake County already. There's the Collier Avenue project, right, being completed here pretty soon, which was on the books for what, contemplated for 20 years, 30 years, something like that?
Yeah, we've been working on it for like about 20 years.
So, that's very positive, for the folks that are going into those homes. So all positive stuff. So, yeah, in the district, positive stuff. So here to support that, Supervisor Crandall, because we do know the issue you're speaking of. We all went through it, and it's needed. So just want to reiterate incomplete support.
Supervisor Green?
Just spitballing out loud as long as we're talking about it. We're here for a one-off project. Navigation Center is going to be a one-off project. We haven't really had the opportunity to discuss co-location of facilities. And there may be, because we're doing a general plan update and area plan updates. I know we are not currently focused, and maybe there would be disincentives from co-locating a facility like this to some other type of supportive housing, say through continuum of care and that process. But if we're just going to do one-off site acquisitions one by one and look for those little targets of opportunity, it doesn't, there should be some argument for a more linked approach to looking at all types of congregate housing in our master plan, in our general plan process, through our area plans, and also through agencies like yours. If you're developing projects that's all over the state, and it's a constant drumbeat of, I found a site, let's hope it goes through. What can we do to be proactive and say we're going to have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of housing needs that if we took that longer view, could we co-locate some of these facilities and be more efficient, both with our land resources, but also with the blowback we're going to get from various people? It may be a more supportive thing if we had more of a campus type approach to some of these projects instead of looking for little corners of opportunity. And I'm just speaking out loud there. I don't want to burden this item with that long-range planning, but it seems like there's something we can and should do on that effort.
I don't disagree, but part of this project is it's a bigger project than what we need, right? We asked for 20 and it's 40, so it will be two different, it won't just be probation individuals living in this housing development. So I think that does take in consideration at least part of that. Also, we want to locate sites that are close to the services that probation, behavioral health, social services already provides, so that they can be close to resources. And so some of the ones that we've identified are very close to locations that we already use. So I think that will also help with some of that.
And I believe, so there's 20 for probation individuals that have insecure housing needs, and the rest is 30% of median income or something like that, I believe was the criteria. Am I correct on that?
Well, thank you for the question, Chair. There's going to be a variety of income limits there. The majority of the individuals coming out from probation are going to fall in that 30% category just simply by, being incarcerated for some time. I think the rest of it is going to be income restricted. I think you'll see most likely from 80% AMI down, but more than likely 60% AMI and down, just due to how the funding models work. We're still waiting for HCD to put out their current NOFA for this fiscal year to see where those roll. So I would assume 60% down on some of the units, and then the majority of the units that are for probation would be 30, just simply because of the dynamics that come out of the probation department, lack of income, lack of ability to pay rent and stuff like that.
And I think the rest of the board has already spoken highly of the need. You can't get your feet back on the ground if you don't have the basic hierarchy of needs met, and housing is definitely one of them, with 30 or more percent that are experiencing housing insecurity. How can we expect recidivism to go down for those individuals? And I think this is a great idea. I appreciate the push that probation has had. You've done a lot, and this is definitely one of those pieces to the puzzle. I want to speak specifics within the agreement. This is simple. There was some statements in regard of working with NorCal Continuum of Care in Section 4A1. That should be the Lake County Continuum of Care. It also speaks to coordinated entry process next to HMIS. We do have HMIS, but we use, or at least we use the terminology of coordinated entry systems. So if we can change, make an amendment to change anywhere where NorCal Continuum of Care is titled, because it's hard for me to do a search because it's not a searchable document, that we change that to Lake County Continuum of Care, and anywhere that there's coordinated entry process or CEP, that we change that to coordinated entry system or CES, at least to match what the local COC has in their policies. There's two things that I wanted to talk about in regards to this. I don't mean to use history with the same agency, but we just talked about how 20-plus years, this is needed today. And so you talked of a timeline, but I don't see, and I know that putting a specific timeline is hard because there's the obtaining of other funds in order to make this possible, but I don't see any timeline saying, hey, if it's going to take 5 years and we're still waiting, then maybe we need to look somewhere else to see who can get this project going. I don't want to be here 20 years later giving Lake County a resource that is so needed 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So I don't see anything in here, and I would love to see some sort of check-ins on timelines to see what is it that we need to do. Do we continue the course, or do we look for a different agency that might have the resources to get it done? I don't know what your capacity is. Obviously, you submitted your proposal because you believe you have the capacity, but I want to make sure this project happens. The other part, and I did receive through an email, thank you, some comments. I see where we give the $5 million, but I don't see any protection of the $5 million. It does mention that there will be reporting guidelines, talks about intellectual property, but at the same time, I'm not sure if that's a different contract where we talk about a developer contract, but I believe that developer contract is going to be between this agency and the developer and not between the county and the developer. So I'm happy to provide as a pass-through the grant that we received in order to get this development done, but I also see no protections within the document where we can recoup whatever has not been spent. We've already been here before where a couple $1 million was provided for the Nice Collier Avenue project, where then we had to do some loan forgiveness stuff, and it was an awkward moment, and I don't want to get back to that, and I feel like I personally would like to see us get it right within the agreement to ensure that if there is a complete cutoff, a default, or anything that doesn't go right, that we can speak specifically about the $5 million, because we are liable for that $5 million. We are the grant recipient. We have to report on it and how it was utilized. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but that to me is a big sticking point of how do I ensure if things don't go as planned, that there are securities within of the grant funds that we've received for what they should be utilized for, rather than here, I don't see anything that basically says we have to give back everything if we haven't used anything, and I don't see that within the context of the agreement. Again, I really want this project to happen. I just want to make sure that we're safe in how we move forward with this contract. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, or if anybody else has a comment regarding that.
Yeah, so I want to touch on the 20-year deal real quickly. Unfortunately, the first phase of Collier was hit with the 2008 housing collapse and the collapse of the fiscal markets, which almost took us out as an organization completely. So we do respect the issues surrounding that and the timeline of getting that project completed. So I respect that in this contract. In this contract, I know we agreed to a pretty, and I think legal counsel can speak to this for the county, we agreed to a pretty open termination clause in the contract. And I can't speak directly to whether or not it was worded to where we would return the funds and any other work product that was paid for with those funds, such as NEPA studies or CEQA studies, whatever would be needed for those types of projects to solve those issues, Chair Sabate, that we had previously with Colliers. So I can't speak to that. I did not do the legal review myself. Our legal counsel worked with county legal counsel, but we'd be willing to change that wording to, to satisfy the board's concerns.
So I'm wondering if, Vice Chair Crandall.
So you want to go through what you're doing first, and then I'll make.
I'm done. I'm looking for feedback either from Assistant CAO Carter or County Council, or just get a understanding of what the board thinks.
As to determination, it is referenced in Section 8 of the MOU, but there's multiple Section 8s. So I am currently in the process of looking through that termination clause.
It's on page 11.
So I'll just ask, I don't see it highlighted anywhere, but is this strictly going to be sought out for unincorporated areas, or is incorporated areas also considered in this process?
We're considering every area that could qualify for the funding sources that are available. I think the largest thing we're seeing now is that as we're going through this, HCD changes their rules, tax credits change their rules, and a lot of other funding sources that pop up for shovel-ready projects. And the way this agreement's working, it lets us have that shovel-ready project. So it's not just unincorporated, it could be incorporated, it could be in the city of Clear Lake, city of Lakeport, or anywhere within the county that meets those somewhat strict requirements to leverage this public funding that's been given.
Thanks.
And obviously, if that was the case, you'd be working with those planning departments or community development departments in order to process the project.
Yeah, and I did last week meet with, I'm not sure of his title, yeah, Alan Flora at City of Clear Lake, and he identified several lots in the City of Clear Lake that may be available for this project. On the other question, on page 13 of the contract also, I think it's 10I is the provision. It does give ownership of all the work in the project to the county. So if something were to happen and we have purchased a lot, the lot would be the county's property, not going with RCHDC should the termination occur.
So I'll express my concern. It says that we'll receive anything that has been done, but it doesn't talk about what might be left over of the $5 million. And then in the termination clause, which is Section 8D, it says the only time it mentions anything about money, in the event of non-appropriation of funds for the services provided under this MOU, county may terminate this MOU, but it doesn't say what we should be paid back. It does say a prorated amount for the services, but the services are the services of the project once the project is done. And so again, the $5 million is for the development. I'm concerned and want to make sure that our $5 million is safe. I feel there's things lacking in there, and maybe it appears County Council might be ready to speak on this.
Mr. Chair, you are correct. That's in referencing Section 8D of the MOU. It does provide for a no-cost termination with an additional clause for a prorated amount for services to be paid upon termination, under this provision. So if your board wishes to make amendments or revise that to add additional provisions in relation to that $5 million amount, your board certainly has the option to propose that amendment.
So my proposal is, because I appreciate what happened in the past, right now, we just heard a economic forecast that we are seeing $925,000 average house prices or median in Napa. There could potentially be another 2008 situation. I don't want to be stuck trying to rebuild for 20 years. And so maybe putting a timeline of, let's say, maybe 5 years maximum. I don't want to restrict it to the point that you can't get things accomplished, but I'd like for this board to be able to re-review what's the status, do we continue the course? It's not to say it's canceled, but at least put something in there that if 5 years has lapsed, that we go back to the board to review the continuation of this agreement, something along those lines. Mr. Carter?
That would be something I would recommend, just to make sure that it continues through the process. And with the email that was sent from Mr. LaRue, it's all a little bit vague related to where it's all related to the project, and if the project isn't completed, then the remaining funds would be issued back. It's all a little vague, but it is acceptable language. So it would be really up to comfort levels.
And does it impact Section 8D, or does Section 8D stand on its own? And I would love to see that amendment that County Council offered could be there. But again, I'd like to go back to the board, because if it's not a necessary thing, then I'm just talking for no reason. So Supervisor Green?
I would never accuse you of talking for no reason, if only to avoid pointing fingers at myself. If there's clarification, I would rather we not do it on the fly. If the attorneys for the parties want to meet and confer and hammer something out. Vagueness aside, I think Assistant CAO Carter's said, yeah, we can probably do this. I just wanted to speak mainly in support of the housekeeping changes you recommended as far as the references to Lake County COC and HMIS CES to be changed throughout the document. I think those housekeeping changes make perfect sense, and I'll wait to hear from the rest of the board whether they think anything stronger needs to go in that termination or performance clause.
Yeah. Agreeing with what Michael Green just said on the other two, I agree with the 5-year update or look back, bringing it to the board. I think that keeps everybody on track, as far as that goes. So that's what I'm willing to agree with, adding that into the agreement for sure. And then the other suggestions that you had made to continual care and HMSI. We're learning all those new terms as we're trying to get HCD money, every organization. And you're right, they change the rules all the time. So anyway, but I would agree with keeping it on track for the 5-year, at least the 5-year, bringing it back.
I'm getting the nod.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the 5 years, and with what Mr. Carter mentioned, we're comfortable with the way it's worded for the safety of the $5 million at this moment in time, is what I'm hearing as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Where would you add the 5 years?
I don't know. What section would the 5 years be added to? I guess section,
Well, we should just bring it back.
Yeah, I was actually going to recommend that the resolution and all of those items, adjusting the budget, be approved today, but let Probation Department, RCHDC, County Council, and my office just do a quick offline conversation and bring it back, the MOU, next week with those changes.
All right, looks like there's consensus for that. And let me make sure and open it up for public comment if there's no further conversation at the board. And anyone wish to speak on this item? I see no hands in the Zoom room and no one getting up in the chamber, so bringing it back for the resolution.
For the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. All right, and we will take up item C at a later time when this comes back, and appreciate the conversation. And again, thank you for bringing this project to light.
Thank you.